I always say that brands that are able to run successful referral programs are those who meet these three conditions. First of all, they have a good product. Second, they have a good purchase experience. And then the third, they have a solid support system that's able to help their customers.
Hello and welcome to ESM Squared, the podcast for experienced social media marketers. I'm Emily, your host and long-term member of the team here at Iconosquare. Iconosquare is one of the leading analytics and management tools for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn. We're proud to work with some of the biggest agencies in the world, as well as huge brands such as Patagonia, Sephora, Versace and even NASA. If you're new to Iconosquare or just haven't got around to checking out our tools before, you can start with the basics by heading over to audit.iconosquare.com and getting a free audit of your Instagram and Facebook accounts to find out once and for all where you're flying high and where you're falling flat. These audits are so helpful and they're literally the best place to start when it comes to improving your social media strategy with analytics. If you're a regular listener of ESM Squared, you know that we have two types of episode: the interviews with social media experts, where professionals share with me and all of you their experiences working with social media, as well as their internal strategies, tips, tricks, and more. And we also have tutorial episodes in which I talk all by myself about a particular topic, which can often be a burning question for social media marketers like you, and help guide you into making strong decisions for your social strategy. This episode is an interview, and I was lucky enough to be able to interview Raúl Galera, Chief Advocate at ReferralCandy. I'll let Raúl explain more about his position in just a second, and I'll also be asking him about referral and influencer marketing in general, so don't miss out on his tips. Once you're done with this episode, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the podcast and leave us a rating. Don't forget you can try Iconosquare for free for a whole 2 weeks, and you don't need to share any credit card information to get started. Contact me directly for any questions or feedback via emily@iconosquare.com. Today I'm with Raúl Galera from ReferralCandy. Hi Raúl, how are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Right, let's start out with these questions. I wanted to start today's chat by asking you about ReferralCandy in general. Could you go over within the company, tell our listeners about you guys, what it is that you do, and more specifically, what your role is within the team?
Yeah, so we are a software that allows e-commerce brands to set up and run customer referral programs. So think about the traditional give 10, get 10. It's a very easy way for brands to acquire new customers while they are retaining their existing ones, and we basically allow them to run these referral programs on autopilot. And what I do specifically at the company, so I'm currently, it's called the Chief Advocate, which is kind of a fancy title, but I've been managing partnerships at the company for the past 5 years. So my role is to work with merchants directly, but also with agencies, tech companies, and media companies as well in the e-commerce world.
Great, thank you. So, and what kind of content does ReferralCandy deal in? Can you walk me through the process from the moment that you onboard a new merchant to the delivery of your final product?
Yeah, so we pretty much focus in terms of content strategy. We've always focused on being the number one destination for referral marketing content. So actually, ReferralCandy started in 2010. So we've been around for a while, and from the very beginning, we wanted our blog to be the centerpiece of our marketing strategy, but also we wanted to use this as a resource for merchants that either were getting started with referral marketing and they wanted to get more kind of preliminary information on how referral programs work, but also those kind of like advanced users that wanted to get tips and information and strategies on how to improve their referral campaigns. So our process, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. We try to educate merchants with content pretty much from the first moment that they hear about us, and then we try to nurture them with more and more information about how referral marketing can work with them. Like I said, we use the blog, and we use a lot of resources there that we distribute, whether it's on social media or with email to our customers. But we also are starting to create more and more video content, and more specifically, we create either demo webinars that I run myself, or kind of like short videos that explain specific features or specific kind of like items on how to run a referral program. So we pretty much want to make sure that they're covered from end to end, from the first time that they start thinking about running a referral program to the moment that they're actually running it and they're just looking for ways to improve it.
So obviously taking care of partner programs and dealing with so many clients on a daily basis, I'm sure you have some great insights to share about the state of social media at the moment. Can you tell me what you're seeing? What are professionals doing on social media these days? And maybe what their goals are?
Yeah, so I would say that first of all, something I noticed, especially during 2020, is that I'm seeing brands be more careful about joining conversations on social media. And again, especially particularly delicate topics that took place during 2020. I think brands used to kind of jump the gun and make the wrong comments or make the wrong decisions before. I think they kind of had this feeling that they had to join pretty much every conversation that was happening on social media just to be able to stay visible and stay active. But I think that's not the case anymore. At the same time, consumers are being able to tell who are those brands that are actually concerned about specific issues for their actions, not necessarily for their words, and those who are just trying to take advantage of some situation to gain exposure. So brands that have been traditionally involved in one particular issue are being treated more seriously when they speak out about, again, particular topics, and those who maybe haven't been involved with certain causes before, whenever they try to join a conversation, I think they're getting a little bit more backlash. So again, I think brands are being more careful in general, which I think it's good. And then on the other hand, I'm seeing an overall increase in the importance of customer retention kind of across the board. So brands are more and more focused on developing more marketing assets and that involved customer retention. And social media it's obviously one of those channels that they use to deliver this content. In particular, I'm seeing brands delivering more useful and educational content to their followers rather than using social media as a kind of like a purely promotional channel, kind of like they used to. One really cool example actually that I saw last year. So obviously the travel industry suffered a lot during 2020. And there's one particular clothing brand that focused on creating products specifically for travel. That obviously last year, well, they really had to kind of like rethink their whole marketing strategy. And something that they did is that they came up with highly curated content with COVID-friendly destinations or ideas for road trips, and you could tell that they didn't want to just get something out there quickly, just something that they could publish on social media and kind of like get people to interact with it. They actually wanted to provide useful content that people would actually follow and use for their trip plannings, which was obviously a lot more limited last year than it is this year. And that has definitely paid off for them now that people are traveling more and more these days, especially compared to the summer of 2020. So yeah, when you provide useful content to your followers and your customers, they're definitely going to appreciate that, and they're going to see that again that you wanted to actually provide something useful and not necessarily just get some quick exposure.
You can definitely feel the difference, can't you, when the content has a real intention behind it rather than just being a piece of content because I post every day, so I have to post something today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, we're all exposed to this kind of content, and I mean, ourselves as consumers, we're able to tell immediately when somebody just wants our quick attention because they're going to sell us something. But we're actually surprised, I think, when brands truly provide you with content, and you're kind of expecting that sales pitch at the end, and you don't see it because the whole content is a sales pitch in a way. When you're able to provide something useful to somebody, they're going to keep you. They're going to stay top of mind. I mean, this is a great example. This company that I'm mentioning, they're not ReferralCandy clients, but I still remember them, and I still bring them up in conversations because of what they did. And I might purchase from them later on, but they were able to kind of capture my attention because they gave me something that I could actually use in my daily life. So that's the value of it.
Yeah, it's like they've converted you, but on like over a longer period of time. Like at some point down the road, you probably will convert and become one of their customers. But as it is, you've just got them in your mind, which is half the job done, really, more than half. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Great. Can you give me any examples of brands that ReferralCandy is working with and how they're keeping on track with their objectives, maybe some campaigns which have worked well.
Yeah, so I kind of like us, but just to start with, I always say that brands that are able to run successful referral programs are those who meet these three conditions. First of all, they have a good product. Second, they have a good purchase experience, and then the third, they have a solid support system that's able to help their customers. That's kind of the bottom line for the success of any program. You need to have all those items in place. Now, on top of that, there are other aspects that make them successful, and that could be the type of rewards that they're offering, the type of products they're offering, or maybe how word of mouth friendly their product is. And when we think about the classic examples of referral programs, PayPal, Dropbox, Uber, one thing that they all had in common was the fact that they were truly revolutionary products. Back then, PayPal was something new. I mean, sending money online was definitely something that we weren't used to. So we loved talking about, kind of like this new cool way of sending money to our friends and family, and same with Dropbox and same with Uber. So they were pretty word of mouth friendly because they were just something new, and we just loved telling people about this really cool thing that we had discovered they might have never heard of before. And that happens in e-commerce as well. So if you're offering either a new product or an old product, but with a twist, that's really going to work very well. And we have companies and industries as traditional as the cleaning supplies that have been able to run extremely successful referral programs because their products are revolutionary in a way. They've been able to add that twist that makes them different from the kind of like the traditional operators in their industry. And that makes their customers love talking about them. And that kind of circles back with what we were just talking about, staying top of mind. When you have a product that's kind of new and revolutionary in a way, your customers are going to keep you top of mind, and they're going to come up in conversations. So if your product it's easy for your customers to mention it in conversations to their friends and family, those referrals are going to happen. What we do at ReferralCandy is basically just make their job easier. So we have a couple examples that kind of come to mind, and the one that I was thinking about when I mentioned the cleaning supplies. So we have a customer that's called Branch Basics. They're based in the US, and they're a subscription business for cleaning supplies. But kind of like their twist is that that the founders of the company, they realized that most of what we pay for when we buy cleaning supplies is water and plastic. When you buy detergent or dish soap, the main ingredient is water, and then you're also paying for the package because you're going to use that package and then you're going to throw it away. They realize that those products could either be reused like plastic, or water could it's something that we just have at home available to us. So they started with this subscription service in which their customers were able to just get kind of like an initial package of bottles, and then they will get a subscription of like these concentrates that would dilute in water, and then they'll be able to use these cleaning supplies without obviously damaging the environment. So that product, and again, they're participating in an industry that's it's massive, and it's also very traditional. That we're able to kind of come up with this twist that made them very word of mouth friendly, and obviously the referral program pretty much took off immediately, and they were able to use it also to kind of break through the noise, because it's a highly competitive industry. There's massive companies operating in the space, so they had to find a way to get exposure and get in front of new customers, and they use their own customer base as their marketing team or their sales team. And right now, about 10% of their monthly revenue comes from referrals, which is a really good number, especially when you consider the how profitable that channel can be compared to other acquisition channels. And then from other kind of like traditional industries, we've seen a lot of companies in the clothing and apparel industry that are kind of breaking through the noise, and they're standing out from their competition by giving their customers a purpose of why they are creating specific types of products. And so, for example, we have a customer called Christy Dawn, and they're kind of like, they're obviously against the fast fashion type of industry, and so they're producing pieces of clothing that last forever, which I know it sounds crazy these days because most of the clothing items that we buy can't really last for more than a couple of years. They're doing the opposite, and they have a company mission that goes beyond that, and they kind of explain why they started operating in this business, and so that makes referrals a lot richer. When you have obviously great products, but at the same time your company has a purpose, these recommendations are a lot deeper and have a lot more information than just as if your customers were just going to say, "Oh, I got this dress online." They're not gonna say that they got it online. They're gonna mention the name of the company. They're gonna mention the purpose and the reason why they bought it, and also what the company stands for. So I think that makes them. That's, in my opinion, what can separate a good referral program from a truly great referral program in terms of results and in terms of reach.
As you say, like, these are environmentally friendly brands with their products, which are not necessarily pretty and not necessarily sparkly and the kind of thing that people would love to buy a few years ago. And nowadays they've become the products which loads of people are actually really excited to get behind, and they don't, as I said, they don't have to be pretty. And I feel like that's really made a shift in the world of marketing. That it's not all about the big flashy colors and the who's got the best logo and all the rest of it. It's really about the purpose behind what they're doing. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, and again, like you mentioned, these are especially the kind of the cleaning supplies product. That's something that we used to buy almost unconsciously. We just write it on our shopping list, and we go to the grocery store and we just get it, and that's it. I mean, maybe the only difference that we look at is in terms of maybe price or if we recognize a brand. But here we're talking about. I mean, you would never see somebody being excited about talking to their friends and family about their dish soap, but it's actually happening with this with Branch Basics, because again, there's a purpose, and also I feel like consumers feel good about their choices, and when you feel good about it, and when you feel like you're making an impact, I mean, which you are, to be honest, it gets a lot easier to kind of spread the word and try to convert your friends and family to this new thing that you've discovered.
Yeah. And so, talking about word of mouth and all of this, talking to your friends and stuff, what about influencer marketing? Are you seeing any trends among bigger brands, smaller businesses? What are they doing at the moment?
Well, we've definitely seen, not necessarily just in terms of influencer marketing, or I would say influencer marketing as part of word of mouth marketing, which is, what we're typically following, is that brands have been more creative in terms of how to acquire new customers. So, especially during 2020, two things happened that kind of forced e-commerce brands to get creative. The first one was that a lot more companies joined the online space, and so companies that were traditionally just selling on physical retail, they moved to online, and they started their online stores, and now they had to compete with those, and also that also crowded the ad space. So the budgets that the brands were playing with before that were no longer enough, and so they either had to put more money into ads, or they had to find more creative ways to reach customers. And word of mouth was one of them, and definitely influencer marketing. And so the brands, I think, kind of like the main trend that I'm seeing is that brands are realizing that when they choose influencers, they need to make sure that they're speaking to their audience perfectly. So either you do it by bringing influencers that your customers are already following, or you kind of like introduce them to new followers, or you're able to kind of like find influencers that have an audience that it's not necessarily your kind of like ideal customer base, but they could be interested in it. And so those are things that brands are doing to be able to kind of reach new audiences, and also retain the ones that they have. At the end of the day, influencer marketing, in my opinion, it's pretty similar to word of mouth marketing, because when an influencer recommends something on their social media profile, sure, it's not the same as a friend recommendation, but those people are famous on social media because of their expertise in one particular topic, and they've earned their trust of their followers because of the content that they produce. And so when we see an influencer recommending a product, it's not the same as when we see a singer or a football player recommending a product. We know that they don't have skin in the game, but influencers do. If influencers recommend a product and turns out that it's not good, that can hurt their own business. So they're a lot more careful. So I think in general, that's what brands are trying to create, kind of like more personal connections with influencers and also with their customers as well. And so they're definitely not going for kind of like the biggest accounts or maybe the kind of like celebrities in a way. They're going for kind of like more smaller niche accounts that know that can speak to their customers and speak to their audience a lot more directly.
I was going to ask you what you think that a brand should look out for when they're looking for the perfect influencer for their brand.
I'd say somebody that looks exactly like their customers. Something that we actually do on ReferralCandy. One of the features that ReferralCandy has is that allows you to see who are your top advocates. Who are the customers that are referring the most friends. And one of the things that brands can do through that feature is that they might be able to see that they have one particular customer that has referred 3, 4, 5 more times more friends than anybody else. And that typically happens when you have an influencer in your customer base. And so if you don't know that you have an influencer that's already buying your products and they're happy with your products and they're promoting you on their social media accounts because you have a referral program, they're doing that promotion, but they're doing it in a way it feels truly unique because they are users of your products and they actually like it. And so that's when these like kind of like high profile referrals happen with influencers. So that's the ideal scenario. If you can spot influencers within your customer base and then connect with them and ask them, what's the best way that we can support you with your business, but at the same time, what's the best way for you to kind of promote our products? That's the ideal scenario. Otherwise, just try to find somebody that looks exactly like your customers or are as similar as possible, because those are the ones that are going to be able to provide a more personal recommendation than somebody that's just looking for kind of like a financial transaction of, I'll promote your product and this is what you get.
Yeah, and then there's those brands who will actually reach out to their users because they've posted a story or something with a picture of their product in it, and they'll say, "Hey, do you fancy a collab?" I mean,
yep,
turn
exactly.
your customers into your influencers. Yeah. Moving on to the questions which concern your experiences. Is there anything that stands out to you as a memorable moment in your work, maybe a proud moment?
A proud moment. I would say that so we don't produce a lot of video content, but the majority of the videos that we have in our YouTube channel are made by me. I create like a lot of kind of like demo webinars and just like videos that explain how certain aspects of ReferralCandy work. But there's one kind of like demo webinar that it's available to brands, and they kind of watch it on a regular basis. And so I can't think of like one particularly memorable or proud moment, but I personally get really excited every time someone emails me after watching my demo webinar, and especially if it's coming from a brand that I'm familiar with or a brand that I already like. I guess it's kind of like a similar feeling as having a celebrity emailing you. I guess that's how it feels like. So I mean, thankfully this happens a few times a month, and we get a lot of brands that watch those videos and kind of like use it as the entry point to start a referral program. But yeah, I do get a sense of kind of achievement or I feel proud, I guess, of my work when I managed to get somebody's attention for 20-25 minutes, and even they have questions after that. That's kind of like the best feeling when you're doing public speaking and you finish a presentation, and then you ask if anybody has any questions, and you see the audience, you see like several hands raising in the in the audience. That's a great feeling, because it tells you that people are paying attention. So that's those emails are my equivalent of the raised hands.
Yes, right. Such a good feeling. Cool. Okay, is there anything that you can tell me about your position at the moment at ReferralCandy that would surprise me?
Something that surprised me actually when I first so I come from a sales background, and before joining Referral Candy I was doing sales and business development, and so I thought that partner management will be pretty similar. At the end of the day, I will have to sell our product to, in this case, to agencies that would then sell it to their customers. And so I thought that it was going to be pretty much a sales position, but it turns out that I do a lot more. Kind of customer support and marketing than sales these days. I recently joined a conference, an online conference, and I gave a presentation about partner management. And that was a really good time for me to kind of like do some introspect and kind of like analyze how my work has evolved in the past 5 years. And I came up with this slide, which was meant to be funny, I guess, which I followed this meme template that I'm sure a lot of people have seen. It's like how my friends see me, how my parents see me, and how I actually am. And you have all these different pictures. Yeah. So in my case, was like how my colleagues see me, how my LinkedIn connections see me, and I had all these pictures of people doing public speaking or like traveling to conferences, and then the real me was someone whose back was hurting from being hunched over the computer for too long. So, and it was kind of like a representation that what I was expecting from my job is, which I do. I go to conferences. I do public speaking. This is an example of it. But the most of my work happens over email and over calls with merchants and agencies, and kind of like managing their accounts and making sure that their customers are happy using Referral Candy. So yeah, I guess that's kind of the non-public side of of partner management. Involves a lot more customer support than you would think, and I personally like it. So.
Yeah, the best bit is explaining it to your parents. I don't know if you've had that.
Oh yeah, no, they still don't know what I do. So I gave up a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the final quick fire questions. So I'm going to ask 3 questions, and I'm looking for the first answer that comes into your head. What takes up most of your time on any given workday?
Email, for sure.
Of course. Your favorite accounts on social media, which is very personal to you.
So there's one that I followed on Instagram for a really long time that's called Daily Overview. So all they post is pictures taken from satellite. So either pictures of cities or natural landscaping. But the really cool thing about it that I made me follow them in the first place is that they're called themselves Daily Overview, and they're named after the overview effect, which apparently it's something that astronauts get after they've been in space for a while and they've been looking at Earth from like perspective and from kind of like that overview. And apparently when you spend so much time in space, not kind of like, I don't know if Jeff Bezos, after he came back from his trip, managed to get this overview effect, but astronauts that spend a lot of time on space apparently get it, and it's like you start seeing the Earth as a whole, and so like borders stop making sense to you, and countries, and they have the fact that we have to like use passports to travel the world and all that kind of stuff that just doesn't make sense to you. And so I really like that concept. That's something I wasn't aware of, and they post, like I said, they post pictures of different parts of the Earth from a satellite perspective, and it's really cool. And I thought the name was really smart.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely have to go and check that one out. I was not aware of that concept either. Final question: with all of your experience and knowledge from an outside point of view, what would your advice to social media managers be?
I would say that try to be as personal as possible with your customers. At the end of the day, people that follow you on social media, it's because they like your brand, and if they like your brand, it's because they like it more than just the products, and so they're expecting a little bit more from the brand and from the social media accounts than just getting promotions or getting alerts when a new product it's released. They want to know what you're up to as a brand, know what your company mission is, and they want to get content from you that's actually useful. Kind of going back to the example that I mentioned earlier, try to provide useful stuff to your followers, and it'll pay back it'll pay out in the long run. You'll be able to stay top of mind, and you'll be able to have your audience and your customers think about you. And even if they haven't bought from you before, you'll be one of their first options when that moment comes.
That's so true. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for all of the precious information coming from your outside perspective into social media management. Very interesting insights. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's all for today's episode. Don't forget you can check out our other tutorials and interviews with experienced social media marketers on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and TuneIn. Please don't hesitate to give this episode a rating, and for all questions and comments or to inquire about being interviewed on ESM Squared, contact me directly via emily@iconosquared.com.